Hi and welcome to the channel. Today's vlog, I'm going to be showing you what movement, mobility, flexibility actually looks like. If this is your first time here, I'm recently creating more content that's a little bit more raw, unedited, and hopefully what it does is first you learn. 30 years of experience has shown me that there is a hybrid to everything. It's not just stretching and just weight training. It's a holistic approach to health that over the next 10 years, really we're going to grasp. Today I'm going to take you through, I'm between clients. If you didn't already know, I'm the father with Nomads with a Purpose. You can see all our adventures. We've been full-time traveling for the last 10 years. And in the process, I've been working digitally with my clients on this new evolved version of health. And some of the content here is showing you some of that stuff. So I thought I'd take you on some of my own workout slash movement and mobility. Today is about mobility. I posted one on breath work. I posted one on what my actual workout is like, and I've received quite a few messages about some of the little gems there. And so my hope is that while I'm taking you through a fair amount of this, it's raw, but it'll kind of give you some insight because I'll share some of the thoughts, and that's where I get my most thoughts, to be honest. Let's get into it. I usually start my movement and mobility with Qigong. And Qigong is just a fancy way of saying movement meditation. And so I'll kind of prompt you through some of the movements that I do. I am by no means a Qigong expert. Everyone always puts me in sort of a category. I take information, take it into what it's used, digest it to what I need and for what my clients need, and discard what isn't necessary. Very Bruce Lee like in my mind. Take what's useful, discard what isn't. And so I always start my Qigong with the sway, and we'll get into a little bit of mobility work and what that looks like. If you follow along with me, um, try to memorize it, try to take a look at position while I'm sharing some of this stuff. All right, here we go. Side to side sway. The idea here as a coach, as I'm taking you through these motions, I observe people in the relaxed state. If the arms feel heavy, rigid, robotic, I can usually see human movement patterns. All the years of working and executing, I can see where there's little linchpins, but can you feel where that is? Slow in, slow out. You might ask why I do Qigong or movement like this. It's to bring an evaluation, bring yourself mindful to the moment. Most of the time we're acting externally. What's going on? What do I need to accomplish? How about just taking a moment to go within? And guess what? All of your numbers, if you're into strength training, if you're into surfing, if you're into jiu-jitsu, you will be better at it. Good. Now we're going into ringing the drums. I love this one because there's two touch points up here and the low back. The touch points are acupressure points. You're following me on this channel, you know I east meets west. These acupressure points are awesome. So you'll actually feel me thumping pretty good in my low back. Now we're going to take both fists into the low back. And for a lot of my clients, they're dealing with some low back stiffness and tightness, and the Qigong bounce with a little bit of rub in the low back. As I rub the low back, I'm heating it up. I'm also supporting the adrenal glands, right? Those are related to the stress reaction in the body. Think about how much that low back can respond, not only from if you're lifting and active, but the stress that we have throughout the day, or perceived or unperceived. Remember that. We're all into here. I'm always talking about perceived and unperceived. We got to spend some time connecting with all that. All right, last one is Qigong pump on your own flexion here. Doesn't feel good to go all the way down and flex. Got pretty open hammies. I can just flex in half. But for a lot of people, I just teach here. All right. At the end of that, we give limbs a shake while I just kind of touch base. Now, all of those movements in Qigong, we're dealing with meridians of the body. And so you can go learn more about that, but understand that when you're dealing with holistic health, and if you're looking to take your sport and enjoy your life, understand more than just the physical body. Understand these energetic flows of the body and how to connect with them. To me, that might mean a mace one day, a staff another day, jujitsu another day, climbing another day. Your sport, we do for taking care of our body. Let's begin our sway. Going within. What am I feeling? Where am I feeling tension? Where am I not listening to my body on a deeper level? It's what I'm always searching for on some of these movements. If you're following along instead of just observing the thoughts here or my input, remember everything takes practice, whether it's breath work, weight training, surfing, the relationship. Give yourself a little grace. If you're not feeling that deep connection, no big deal. Let's rotate into the drums. So I usually do about 2 or 3 times through a sequence. These are some of my favorites, especially because of some of the things that I do. They don't always take me through these ranges of motion with the speed or the breath. Another valuable point is we teach our muscles and our fascia to be in a certain readiness. I know for me, 50 years old, loving sports, loving activities, training people who do the same. I can see it all over them. If you're exclusively trained jiu-jitsu, for example, sometimes the tension we hold, as soon as you sit, the body will, oh, you want to be in that guard position. You want to pass the guard. So it'll naturally tighten up the fascia. Good. Good. All right. Slowing things down. What do I do next? Now, let's go into our Qigong pump. All right. Now shaking out limbs, kind of feeling where there was tightness. I evaluate where the body needed attention. Advanced training is more about understanding, having a plan, but adjusting based on your needs. All too often, people get dialed in, they get real data. This is my workout, I must do it. I was like that a lot. And still, in some ways, I have a plan. I do push ups and pull ups, but based on the movement of the day, like my Qigong or my mobility work, I can make adjustments for that. All right, so I'm going to take you through. Next up, we're going to go into some of the mobility and flexibility, and it'll look a lot yoga-like, movement-like. Sometimes I'll go static stretch. Sometimes I'll go into some more traditional stuff. But for today's vlog, I want to give you an idea of what that looks like functionally. About 10 minutes. All right, stretchy time. Hip flexors are always a pain in the butt for anyone that's active or sedentary. So I'm going to get in a traditional lunge stretch. And for the sake to make this vlog not an hour, just take a little reach over. Now the hip flexors, I teach everyone that they want to hide. So the way I know I'm targeting it is if I'm getting that high feeling here in my upper quad, upper thigh, but not in the low back. Otherwise I'm tipping out, it'll hide. sometimes tightening the core a little bit, little lateral flexion. High split, very yoga-like. A lot of my focus today is hip flexor, hamstring, hip. Once I stretch both, roll into it back and forth. This is where the movement comes in. Getting a little into the back and kind of feel it wants a little bit, so I'll come in. So I've been coaching 30 years. Every person's a little bit different in what they need. My job when I see them is to know what the prescription is right for the day. It's feeling better. Remember, this isn't all I'm doing today. Generally, non-ski day. Back into the lunge on the other side here. Non-ski day, I will work with clients, and then in between the breaks, get my strength training, my mobility, and myofascial, but I do it in a way that's efficient. Well, first, I enjoy it, and I understand I'm lucky that this is the job that I have, and I get to spend a little more time than the average. But if you hack it down and are efficient, and you learn, this video might be garbage because I have Guns N' Roses in the background, but we'll see. Still flowing in. Now, remember, if you're following along, this is all you got. This is all you got. People always get bent out of shape about their whatever their capabilities are. So that's my hip flexor, hamstring sequence. Now we'll get into the hips. Turn this down. All right, so starting off with some movement, S stretch to S stretch before I get into more traditional stuff. So I'll usually spend a little time hitting this position, leaning forward on it, kind of feeling what's going on, right? The ball and socket can take a lot. I was weight training a lot over the last 2 weeks because I had a gym completely to myself. So probably 2 weeks deadlifted more than I should. So I know that usually tightens up my hips, which has a repercussion on the knees. So I want to make sure I stay loose, switching S the other way. So I have a lot of people that have been watching me for a lot of years, mostly because of the surf video that I published. That's sort of my viral content. I love the surf. Right now we ski. But after an accident in the south of France, I'm very measured about my exposure to anything really over 4 or 5 feet. But if you are a surfer that found my content because of that, understand that every sport, and surfing in particular, all of them are amazing for us, but they can all be a detriment. And what you carry into the water is what I often see in my clients the most. Now I'm going to take it to an S to S, a little bit of movement. Right, my right hip, it's always a tight one, so you'll see me slow down here. For me, one of the biggest things with your mobility work and the activities you have is to be functional in whatever it is you're enjoying. And I always find that movement during mobility is a great way to enhance flexibility. How do I know that? I've seen it. For me, I always felt more flexible. I started to notice in my 20s after squats, I was more flexible than when I started. So I started to apply that to the stretching. I coached gymnastics in a brick and mortar for 20 years. Good. Right hip's still a little bit tight, so I'm going to give it a little time. I'll stay on one side. And when I coached gymnastics, I realized that movement athletes would get flexible, but oftentimes we're taught the static way of movement. And these are still great. I will post vlogs on a static stretch, and that's got to be boring to record, but we'll see. So I did my S. Now I'm going to go more traditional pigeon pose. We'll do that straightforward. Remember, everyone's expression is different. So if you're following along, you should be getting pretty warm, pretty flexible. Almost done here, I promise. If you got into this part of the video and there's something that you want to see, I'm looking to build this tribe here. I've been working about 30 years with clients. Feel lucky to say that I've had a massive impact on them. And I'm just looking to share in a way that I could show up a little bit more often. 5 kids of my own, multiple brands, travel blog, travel lifestyle, clients, creating marketing and leads for that. Oh, I'm starting men's retreats, guys, adventure retreats for that reason. Adventure is such a great way, an access point for people to understand what is going on deeper. So if you have any questions about that, you could DM me. You could DM me about coaching. So it's more traditional pigeon pose. We get a square off position is here. As you can see, my hip on my right side, which is my tight side, always takes a little longer. So you can take a block under there to make it more accessible. The last bit that I wanted to talk about, one of the biggest things with the hips is that connection energetically, right? If we have a poorly functioning glutes, it's going to impact the rest of the body. So always checking in with how the glutes are firing or working during movements like squats and lunges. The gold little piece of info that I want to give you is, as a coach and trainer, one of the biggest clues I tend to look for when people are doing squats and lunges is where they feel it. I feel like that's all I'm constantly asking. Where'd you feel that? Where do you feel that? Where do you feel that? Why is this important? If you're doing a squat and lunge and you don't feel that engagement, especially if you're dealing with some resistance, that's a clue. Why is that a clue? Because it tells me if there's dysfunction. One of the biggest things we do as coaches is start to gauge whether something is working in harmony or not. Stretching out the quads here to finish out. And I like to do a little rock side to side here for the hips, and also encourage some mobility in the knees. Now you might ask, what about the knees? Don't you worry about knees? Well, I need some flexibility there, especially jiu-jitsu. We spend most of the time kneeling. And so just maintaining good flexibility there. So squats and lunges, they don't feel them in your glutes, especially if you can handle them. There's a problem here. You probably need to access it with what you just saw. Something like that, or set up a console that can figure out where your imbalances are. So that's would be my midday qigong and mobility for the hips today. Again, men's retreats are live. Hit me up for coaching directly. I usually solve people's injuries. If you're a person who has injuries and hasn't been able to figure them out, it's usually because, guess what? You're probably really good at what you do. Coaches, I've been doing this for 30 years. I'm really good at what I do. You just see a path real quick. And that's really what it comes down to, is being able to problem solve for people. So that's it for today and this week's vlog. Let me know what you want to see in the comments down below. If there's something that you're interested in that I haven't shown you, one of my videos, or you want more detail, hit me up.